Hey there, Kathleen from Catalytic Empowerment. Thanks so much for being here for the next in the Money Smart Kids series. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button to get more content like this. And don't forget to check out the valuable links in the description below. So this is part 2 in the building character through working and money management for kids topic. In part 1, we talked about character development involved in working and running your own business, things like responsibility and independence, accountability, time management, developing confidence. In part 2, we're going to talk about how payment for work helps our kids understand the value of hard work. And because it develops character and skills that are life-giving, it sets them up for greater success for the rest of their lives. Now, I am not saying that kids need to be paid for every task that they do at home. And I'm not saying that there won't be times that they don't volunteer in the community without being paid. But this discussion is specifically about being intentional and setting our kids up for success in the area of working hard, being paid accordingly, and in managing the resulting finances. So giving your kids an allowance just because they're part of the family and not having it tied to work doesn't really represent reality. It's similar to being a parental ATM, except that perhaps they now have to manage the money that they've been given. And while that's a start, they miss the lessons, the skills, the character development of working to earn the money. So it can actually reduce their confidence, promote dependency, and rob them of their personal dignity. What kids learn now will stick with them as adults. So one of the things mentioned in the previous video is that it can be confusing as the parent trying to figure out the whole chore and allowance thing. Well, here are a few ways that I've seen it done. Now, if you're married, you and your spouse may have different ideas, and it's best for you to come together and be on the same page before you implement a plan. Remember, you can always go and adjust along the way as you see how things go. All right, so 4 common work or chores for pay methods. Number 1, no payment. Kids just help because they're part of the family. Okay, so that is something I've seen, and that is something that a lot of people do at least for part of the time. Okay, number 2, salary-based pay. Kids have a job description with a list of chores they're responsible for each week, or maybe a chore chart. Some chores they might have once a week, like laundry. Others may be daily, like setting the table. And payment is typically made weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. All right, number 3, freelance or pay by chore. Kids are paid by the task or the chore completed satisfactorily. For young kids, payment should be immediate so that the connection between work and payment is felt. For older kids, your child would have a list of chores for the week with an assigned value for each chore. They then track which chores they've completed, and at the end of the week, they get paid the amount they earned. Number 4, job bidding. Multiple kids might bid on a job or a chore like mowing the grass. The job then goes to the child selected based on certain criteria at the agreed upon bid. And when the job is completed, payment is made, similar to number 3. Now, it seems that everyone I've come into contact with has had some number 1 chores, just because you're part of the family. This is a good way to start with your younger kids, like 2 to 5-year-olds, for example, and then even keep those kinds of chores as the kids get older. For younger kids, it's often helpful to have a visual of the chore in addition to telling them and showing them. That way it hits 3 senses: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. For example, if one of their chores is putting their toys away, you could print a photo onto paper or cardstock from the internet of Legos or a pile of toys or an organized toy shelf or a toy box with visuals of a few simple chores taped to the mirror or refrigerator or propped on their dresser. Your kids will be reminded more easily about cleaning up after themselves, their toys, their laundry, their spills, or making their bed, etc. It also takes some of the onus or responsibility off the parent. Now, moving into paid chores is a matter of when the parent feels it's right for that particular child. Here are a few examples of how some parents have handled paid chores. Dave Ramsey. So most of you probably have heard of Dave Ramsey. If you haven't, you may want to Google him. His family mainly used number 3, pay by chore, using a chore chart as explained above. He calls it commission-based. He believes that work and money need to be tied together very clearly and that kids should be paid in cash weekly or immediately if they're really young. He also used the number 4 job bidding chores, where his 3 kids would bid on a job and he would award it to one of them, typically the lowest bidder. Okay, here's someone else, Shakitha Marion McGregor, also known as This Mom Means Business. You can look her up on Facebook. I interviewed her in 2020. She's a single mom of 3, and she told me that she uses mainly the number 2 salary style payment for chores, but she got really creative. For her 3 kids, she set up a few larger roles that consisted of smaller chores or responsibilities. So the roles were like kitchen manager or lead housekeeper, and there was a list of responsibility for each of those roles. Her kids had to apply for the jobs through a job application and then interview with her for the job of their choice. They really took ownership of their role, and she pays her kids twice a month using an app and gives bonuses for grades, reading, and a few other things. So that was very, very creative. Now, the Clark family, from just before their son turned 5, he had 3 daily chores that were paid: make his bed, morning chore, pick up toys, afternoon chore, and pick up clothes and put them in the laundry basket. That was the evening chore. So every evening he was paid 25 cents so he could make the immediate connection between work and pay. Now, the number and complexity of chores increased as he got older, and they moved more towards the number 3 pay per chore with a chore chart. Their son started saving into different jars and categories, including his spend category, where he would typically be saving for some goal or toy. One thing that the Clark parents did to help their son with critical thinking was explain how many specific chores or days it would take to reach his current goal. How many days it would take to reach a $5 toy, for example, with each day's worth of chores at 25 cents per day, right? So that would be 20 days. And it helps him get his mind around working patiently towards a goal, right? So not immediate gratification. The parents specifically asked the grandparents not to buy that gold toy or to give him money towards it, so that their son would really grasp the patience and delayed gratification and have a sense of accomplishment when he achieved the goal. Our family, we mainly used number 2 salary style payment for chores. And when they were a little older, we added optional number 3 pay by chore, like mowing the lawn, washing cars, things like that. For their number 2 salaried chores, the girls each had a list of chores that were broken up over the course of Monday through Friday mornings, with one comprehensive chore that was like a 15 to 20 minute per day, and then some daily chores like setting the table or making their bed. They also both had their own businesses from the time they were 11 or 12: dog watching, babysitting, swim instructor, camp coordinator, nannying, etc. So they were also very entrepreneurial. But for their work at home, the girls were paid their age in dollars weekly. So starting at age 7, they got $7 a week, which was then split into 4 buckets. Now, I've described this in a previous video, and I've linked it here. So they had 4 buckets. We call them buckets: the giving, the spendable, the college, and the long-term / car. And we had certain percentages that went into each. So you can watch that video at the link above. We did not tie each chore to a specific amount of money. They just had to make sure they got all their chores done to get paid. But if someone else had to complete one of their chore responsibilities, like setting the table, because they failed to come and do it when they were called or when they were supposed to, then they had to actually pay that person $1 for doing their job. So although there wasn't a value attached to each of the chores, they did have to compensate someone if someone had to do the chore for them. And if it became a problem, just kept happening, they would also have to choose an extra job from a little baggie of small extra jobs listed on slips of paper. So that didn't happen very often because they did not want that. All right, so quick story. When my daughter Kayla was 8 or so, her goal toy was a Gameboy and a Pokemon game. Now this was way back. My daughter is now 28. So a Game Boy and a Pokemon game. Oh my gosh, this was the end all be all for her. And at that point, she was earning $3.20 per week into her spendable chore account. So Costco had a combo pack with both the Game Boy and the game that she wanted for $100. That was a tall order at that age back in 2001. So she was 8. But Kayla, little by little, earned her money into her spendable account. And when she had saved $80, a neighbor asked her how much more she needed to reach her goal, and she said $20. And when Kayla came home with $20 from the neighbor, I was super frustrated. I explained to Kayla why I encouraged her to give it back, how she had worked so hard toward that goal, and how in 2 months' time she would reach her goal on her own. She returned the money, and with some extra paid chores, she proudly reached her goal within 2 months. Woohoo! She really learned about delayed gratification, patience, and a sense of accomplishing her own goal through her own work. And she says it's a lesson that sticks with her to this day. So some of you may think that our kids didn't have a fun childhood, but I can guarantee you that with confidence that they earned and they gained and money that they earned in their pockets, they absolutely did. All right, you guys, take care. Check out the resources below and please don't forget to subscribe. All right, take care.